Welcome to a real cult classic, Intermission with Megs. This week's episode is about everyone's favorite time-traveling Targaryen, Matt Smith. Go grab your popcorn, hit the restroom, and stretch your legs because this is Intermission with Megs. Matthew Robert Smith was born on October 28, 1982 in Northampton, England. He attended the Northampton School for Boys, where he played a lot of football. That's soccer for those of us in North America. Matt was quite the talented little footballer and was well on his way to going pro until a back injury sidelined him for good. Matt's whole identity had been wrapped up in football, and he felt a bit lost when it was no longer an option. Fortunately for him, his drama teacher, Mr. Hardingham, put his name in for a play without Matt's knowledge. He played juror number 10 in 12 Angry Men. Mr. Hardingham decided to push his luck a little further and signed Matt up for a drama festival, but Matt didn't show up. He was too cool for acting. But his teacher was relentless and continued to push, getting Matt to apply for the National Youth Theatre in London. He saw the potential in the teen, saying, "You were never meant to be a footballer. I always thought you were really great at acting." And so Matthew would spend his summers doing plays with the National Youth Theatre in London. Matt would later say that his teacher changed his life. Bless Mr. Hardingham for seeing the talent that Matt had. After finishing school, he went on to study drama and creative writing at the University of East Anglia. By his third year, he had already secured an agent and was cast in the play Fresh Kills at the Royal Court Theatre. He was then invited to appear in On the Shore of the Wide World, which played at Manchester's Royal Exchange and then the National Theatre. He stayed on at the National for 18 months and would also appear in The History Boys. With his time away from school, Matt managed to strike up a deal with his university to allow him to skip lectures while still completing his reading material. He graduated in 2005. He had his first on-screen appearance in 2006 in the BBC's Masterpiece and continued working in theater, landing a role in That Face at the Royal Court in 2007. After the first run of the show, he went on vacation to Brazil for 2 weeks, but fell in love with the country and ended up staying for another month. The Face picked up another run at the Duke of York's Theatre, and Matt continued to land TV roles, including a run on Party Animals, his first major TV role. He garnered critical acclaim during the second run of The Face in the West End, with the entire cast earning a Laurence Olivier Award for Outstanding Achievement in an Affiliate Theatre, and Matt earned an Evening Standard Theatre Award nomination for Best Newcomer. Matt attempted to break into mainstream TV when he auditioned for the UK version of The Inbetweeners, but series creator Ian Morris said that while he was brilliant, he was also a bit too dashing, with the role eventually going to Simon Bird. But that was probably for the best, because Matt would go on to be cast in a role that would be, honestly, historic. At the beginning of 2009, the 11th Doctor was announced for the Doctor Who franchise. Fans were expecting a prominent actor, maybe even a female actor, but instead they got 26-year-old Matt Smith, the youngest Doctor Who of all time. Now, I'm not a Doctor Who fan. This means nothing to me, and for those of you who also don't really watch it, let's have a little history lesson, shall we? Doctor Who is the longest-running sci-fi series in TV history. It first premiered in 1963, and according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, chronicles the adventures of an eccentric time-traveling scientist from the remote planet Gallifrey, home of the Time Lords. The Doctor, a Time Lord himself, traveled through time and space in his unique craft, the TARDIS. TARDIS stands for Time and Relative Dimensions in Space. It's usually depicted as a blue police box. Anyway, the TARDIS is shape-shifting and can blend into its environment and transports the Doctor and his colleagues throughout space and time to battle monsters, robots, and a twisted Time Lord. The original Doctor Who was played by William Hartnell until 1966, when the show revealed that the Time Lords can regenerate when they're about to die, and then they are reincarnated into different people, but they keep the same skills and memories. It's a genius loophole that has allowed the show to be the longest-running sci-fi series of all time. I wonder if Shirley MacLaine is a fan. Anyway, the show ran until December 1989 when it was postponed with the Seventh Doctor. There was a TV movie with the Eighth Doctor in 1996, but the actual TV series wouldn't resume until March of 2005 with the Ninth Doctor. But then in December of 2005, the 10th Doctor was introduced, and it was none other than David Tennant. And I don't need to be a Doctor Who fan to know that he was by far one of the most popular Doctors. So much so that they brought him back as the 14th Doctor in 2022. You can guess that when the BBC announced that they had taken a chance on an unknown kid, fans were taken aback, concerned that Matt was too young, but others were stoked about the choice and eager to have some younger blood to reinvigorate the franchise. But they weren't the only ones. Matt was also surprised. He had said that he paced his room for 3 days and that he was flabbergasted and hadn't slept. Executive producer Stephen Moffat knew immediately that he had found the 11th Doctor at the beginning of auditions, saying that everything about Matt was spot on, from his hair to the way he said his lines to his dynamism and swagger. Which is incredibly impressive since Matt had never seen an episode of Doctor Who before his audition. When asked by the casting team what his favorite episode was, he said, "Look, Doctor Who's on at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night. I'm in a boozer then." Despite not watching the show, he knew the impact the role would have on his career, which did make him hesitate for a moment, especially when he went for dinner at showrunner Stephen Moffat's house and saw plates with David Tennant's face on them. "Just so you know, that's what it's like," one of the guests pointed out. And it was. The minute Matt's casting was announced, and suddenly everyone wanted a piece of him. "Nothing can prepare you," he said of the experience. Matt's run lasted for 3 seasons because Matt opted to bow out for other projects, a decision that he later regretted slightly, saying that he wished he had gotten to work more with co-star Jenna Coleman. After his time on Doctor Who, which he has said is the greatest part of my life, it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I loved every minute of it. He returned back to his first love. No, not Brazil, the theater. In 2014, he played Patrick Bateman in American Psycho at the Alameda Theatre in London, where Matt did appear shirtless, in his undies, and sang even though he doesn't consider himself a singer. I guess we should all be grateful that Matt is someone that likes to make himself feel uncomfortable and uses that desire to push himself into roles that he might not otherwise take, like ones where he would appear in his tidy whities. While Matt may have wished that he stayed on with Doctor Who longer, his leave definitely allowed him to take Hollywood by storm. The same year that he appeared in American Psycho, he also starred alongside Christina Hendricks, Eva Mendes, and Saoirse Ronan in Ryan Gosling's directorial debut, Lost River. The following year, he appeared in Terminator Genesis with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jason Clarke, and Emilia Clarke. Matt had confirmed that he was scheduled for 2 to 3 more sequels, the first of which was scheduled for release on May 18, 2007, but due to the commercial flop that was Genesis, it was pulled from Paramount's release schedule, and we got Baywatch with Dwayne The Rock and Zac the Efron instead. Maybe it's for the best. Who knows if he would have had the time to take on the role of Prince Philip in Netflix's The Crown.
What kind of marriage is this? What kind of family? You've taken my career from me, you've taken my home, you've taken my name. I thought we were in this together.
Despite proclaiming that he is not of that class, that he and co-star Claire Foy are both lowly middle-classers, Matthew slipped into Philip's royal loafers with ease. Philip is renownedly stoic and quite serious in public, but Matt said that upon further investigation, he's very bright, he's funny, he's hugely popular in the royal house. That all of the research he did with people who have worked there, he was the guy they all really loved. Apparently, an associate of Matt's had the opportunity to dine with Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip when they were both still of this realm. The associate is a well-known figure in the industry, and when Philip found that out, his first question was, "Are you involved in this crown thing?" He was not, but that didn't mean that as dinner was winding down that he didn't take the opportunity to ask Philip a question about the show. "Philip, I'm just wondering, because I have some friends who made The Crown. Have you watched any?" Philip's answer: "Don't be ridiculous." Matt got quite the chuckle out of the story, saying, "Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I just think he's a bit of a cool cat. And that's what I love about him. He's done what he wants, when he wants, how he wants, with whom he wants. He hasn't asked permission, and his wife's the queen." But if you know anything about Philip, that's not exactly true. He was stubborn and temperamental, frustrated with the compromises he had to make in order to marry the queen, such as giving up his career in the Navy, giving up his title as Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark, and ultimately swearing allegiance to his queen. A scene which played out in The Crown when Philip asked Elizabeth if he could be excused from kneeling to her during her coronation. Do you remember that? Matthew said he kind of sided with Philip in the moment, saying, "I felt, yeah, I wouldn't really want to kneel to my wife." But for someone who has also said he'd like to have many children, he might want to rethink his unwillingness to swear his allegiance to his queen on bended knee. If anything, Prince Philip is a divisive character, and Matt played him extremely well. I yelled at my TV a lot, which is why the role earned him 2 Screen Actors Guild nominations and 1 Emmy nomination during his 2-season tenure as the Prince. He has said that he was sad at being recast for fear that he'd never land as great a part again, that the production was effing quality. At a rumored $7 million an episode in production costs, yes, it most certainly is effing quality. And I don't blame him for being disappointed to pass on the baton. But I don't think he really had to worry very much about that whole "I'll never land a part as great as this" thing. After wrapping up their parts on The Crown, both Matt and Claire Foy would return to their homeland, England, to start together in Lungs at the Old Vic in London. The pair were set to take the production stateside, but then the world shut down in March of 2020 and the plan to transfer the show was cancelled. They would end up reprising the roles a few months later, though, this time via digital production through London's Old Vic. A live stream initiative leveraged to help the theater regain revenue lost due to the old pandemic. That same year, Matt would be cast in another role of a lifetime, Daemon Targaryen in the Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon. And he thought he'd never landed an amazing part on a fancy production again. Showrunners Miguel Sapochnik and Ryan Condal had been throwing around names of possible actors for the part, and Matt's name kept popping up. Ryan was a big fan of The Crown and saw his ability to disappear into the roles, saying that Prince Philip shared some crossover traits with Daemon. Was it the affairs? I mean, it might have been the affairs. Initially, Matt was unsure of the role. This seems to be a theme with young Matthew, thinking it would be difficult to follow the success of the original show, but the offer didn't go away and he went in for a screen test, and the rest is, as they say, history. Of course, fans were initially hesitant on the casting of the role, thinking that Matt would Doctor Who Damon, but they must have not been paying attention because Philip was a jerk, and Matt played him well, proving that he could shift from whimsy to wanker in the blink of an eye. Given that House of Dragons premiered to a record 10 million viewers, I think the showrunners might have been right about Matt. And while he has said that it is a physically and mentally demanding show to film, especially the large group scenes, I can only imagine. I have no idea what's going on half the time, and I'm sitting comfortably in my own living room. He still managed to find time to appear in Last Night in Soho, The Forgiven, Morbius, and Starve Acre, not to mention the fact that he has 2 more films in pre-production. Oh, and then there was that run he just did in An Enemy of the People at the Duke of York's Theatre in the West End. Mr. Hardingham really was right, wasn't he? Well, that's it. That's all I have for you today. I hope you have a great weekend and... Oh, it looks like it's time to get back to your seats.